Live from Augusta, you're watching News 12 live at 5.
Thousands of University of Georgia students returning to campus today after police found a nursing student dead on campus. We'll have the latest on the man charged with her murder and the next steps in that investigation. But first, road work affecting many of us every day in Grovetown is finally over. Behind me is the finished diverging diamond on Lewiston Road. It actually reopened a day earlier than planned after the final phase of construction shut down the road on Thursday. Alyssa Lyons has more.
It may not be fall, but we are still going through mazes. It's just called the Diverging Diamond, and residents and workers are still finding their way through.
No left turns, nonstop traffic flow. That's the expectation behind Columbia County's Diverging Diamond. It's finally here and sits right in the middle of the Lewiston exit, a wide concrete diamond that flips drivers to the opposite side in order to get to the other one. The new traffic pattern will take some getting used to. Those behind the wheel are just happy the wait is over.
So thankful, so thankful. Saved me about 20 minutes a day easily, just trying to come to the store.
You know, it kind of backs up sometimes into the interstate, but now when there's lights there, it's like quicker, you know, because we can just go when it's green, so you don't have to wait for the traffic coming in, so it's just real smooth.
Coming up all new on News 12 at 6 o'clock, we'll take you through the diamond to see for ourselves how it really works.
And hopefully those drivers are getting used to that traffic switch there. As we switch gears to weather now, we'll send it over to First Alert Chief Meteorologist Riley Hale. Riley, an absolutely gorgeous day out there, feeling like spring. You can't beat it. 900,000 voters cast a ballot in either South Carolina's first in the South Republican presidential primary last weekend or the first in the nation Democratic primary earlier this month. If some top Republicans in the state get their wish, this year would be the last time any registered voter could participate in the primary of their choosing. Our State House reporter Mary Green has the details.
South Carolina has open primaries, meaning any registered voter can participate in any party's primary, regardless of their political affiliation. But the chair of the South Carolina Republican Party is among the leading voices calling for these primaries to become closed.
The most important thing that a party can do is pick a candidate to put on the ballot in November. And why, whenever we do that most important thing that we do, we can't limit it to people who specifically support our party, makes absolutely no sense at all.
SCGOP Chair Drew McKissick backs a bill that would allow South Carolina voters to register with a political party, which they can't do now, or to remain independent. But under that bill, they would have to be a registered party member to participate in any of that party's primaries. The state Republican Party platform espouses these changes, which McKissick reiterated after a super PAC urged Democrats and independents who hadn't voted in South Carolina's Democratic primary earlier this month to vote for Nikki Haley in the Republican contest last weekend. But at least one former state party chair opposes closed primaries, Governor Henry McMaster.
Just one more impediment to someone voting the way they want to vote. And again, although people have theorized that there may be masses coming over and voting in the Republican primary just to cause mischief, so far in our history, it has not happened.
The South Carolina Democratic Party opposed those efforts earlier this month to encourage Democrats to vote in the Republican presidential primary for Nikki Haley. But a spokesperson for the party tells me they support keeping the primaries themselves open. Reporting from the State House, I'm Mary Green.
That closed primary bill sits in a House of Representatives committee. It has more than 50 Republican co-sponsors, but no backing at this point from Democratic lawmakers. Well, concerns about idling trains and their health impacts. Next, why new regulations haven't forced a fix. Trains are sitting on tracks idling for hours at a time, and neighbors are worried about the health and environmental impacts. Now, national investigative reporter Josie Sturman digs into lax regulations and loopholes that critics say allow locomotives to spew emissions in neighborhoods across the country.
We never really thought we'd be homeowners.
For Caitlin Hilliard and Ben Weinberg, it was the American dream come true until they realized their neighbor was a nightmare.
When they're sitting out there idling, what's it like?
Sometimes it's like sleeping inside a factory.
The couple live about 300 feet, the same distance as 20 parking spaces, from a spot where trains are often stationed for hours.
We write down the date, the day of the week, the time it arrives.
Ben and Caitlin started tracking trains in a detailed database after noticing the recurring problem. Just last year, the pair charted more than 400 trains they say idled outside their townhome community.
We shouldn't be the ones monitoring this railroad situation. Somebody who actually has some power, like the government, should be monitoring it.
We dug through blocked crossing data from the Federal Railroad Administration dating back to 2019 and discovered dozens of complaints that mention idling. From a train sitting with its engines on for 3 days in Nashville to a locomotive idling and popping at all hours in southern Georgia. Health concerns are also highlighted in complaints from Alabama to Illinois and Texas. They're echoed loudly in California, where our team obtained complaints specifically about idling trains, tracked by a state agency focused on curbing pollution and fighting climate change. In that data, there's talk of toxic smoke and diesel fumes causing breathing issues and nausea as trains park for days or weeks at a time, idling and impacting neighbors.
I just worry about the long-term health implications of that.
Studies have found people living near rail lines and rail yards have lowered lifespans, increased asthma, heart, and lung disease rates, and a risk of cancer because of the exposure to particulate matter that comes from train emissions. But despite the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, saying it's well aware of the health impacts of train emissions from idling, critics say the agency hasn't done enough to stop it.
We continue to suffer. We need standards that are higher and better than the 2008 standards.
The current EPA standards from 2008 sound good on paper. They say any locomotive or engine made after 2015 has to be equipped with idling control systems that shut off engines after 30 minutes. But experts testified very few of them have been made.
We've made strong commitments.
Ian Jeffries, the leader of the rail lobby, says companies have invested more than $1 billion to modernize, but it can't happen overnight.
It's got to be done in a way that can allow us to continue to operate, serve our customers, serve our communities, and that the production market can actually handle.
The Association of American Railroads, the industry lobbying group that testified on the Hill, wouldn't speak on camera. Their rep told our national investigative team trains that idle for an extended time are not in the community's or industry's interest, and that railroads have made significant efforts to reduce idling, implemented extensive measures to reduce rail yard emissions, and improve air quality for nearby communities. For its part, the EPA declined an interview, but told us it's been engaging with stakeholders since 2022, evaluating how best to address rail emissions, and is developing a set of options and recommendations for regulatory action.
You should not be treating human beings like this, especially these companies have so much money.
Union Pacific, the company whose trains routinely idle outside that couple's home, says it's been using that spot for years with few complaints or issues. Still, the company says it's taking steps to address their concerns, including planting trees to serve as a buffer. If you're an AT&T customer, you're about to get $5. The mobile network says it wants to recognize the frustration last week's outage has caused people. The $5 credit will go to wireless customers, which it says is the average cost of a full day of service. The FCC says it is investigating Thursday's outage. Riley?
All right, thanks for that, Will. Unfortunately, the rest of the week in just about 10 minutes.
All right, thanks, Riley. Hundreds of students and community members gathered this afternoon to honor 2 students who died in Athens last week. Wyatt Banks died by suicide, and Laken Riley was the nursing student killed Thursday. Police say the suspect in her killing is an illegal immigrant and is now behind bars. Hallie Turner is live for us in Athens. Hallie, you were at the vigil today. Walk us through the energy there and what students had to say.
Yeah, well, the sun may have been out today and the sky is pretty blue out here, but the air around campus and in Athens is so heavy. There's been a silence all across campus today, but before the vigil started at around 3 o'clock, hundreds of students poured out to show their support for Laken and Wyatt. 2 lives lost. Hundreds of students together gathered, holding hands and sharing memories of 2 dogs they will never forget. Wyatt's friends talked about he always puts others first and listened to others' pain, but never shared his own struggles. The president of Alpha Chi Omega described Laken as a friend who shared her love for Christ and was the best listener and the most devoted friend around. Cries and sobs could be heard throughout the crowd as students shared how they plan to move forward living life like Laken and Wyatt.
Tell your friends that you love them. And never miss an opportunity for a sweet treat, one of Lincoln's favorite pastimes. And scream the lyrics to your favorite song as loud as you can. Be kind. Catch up with your friends. And strive to be the type of person that Lincoln was, where sister shared, even if you hadn't seen her in a while. It was like no time had passed at all.
Now, 2 lives lost last week. Midterms are this week, and students say they're just trying to make it to spring break. The student body is hurting. The city is hurting. And coming up all new tonight on News 12 at 6 o'clock, we hear more from these students on how their first day back has been and how they're really learning and hoping to find normalcy.
Hard times for a lot of people there on campus. Thanks, Hallie, for staying on top of this tragic story for us there in Athens. A shooting suspect is behind bars tonight in Aiken. Police say shots were fired Friday evening on Washington Circle. The victims told officers the suspects were in a vehicle and a chase began. When the chase ended, 2 suspects got out and ran away. One of them was caught. Travis Johnson Jr. is now charged with assault and several felony gun charges. Police say another suspect is still on the run. No word yet on who that is. Downtown Augusta continues to grow both in the business and housing sectors. Last year, 56 new businesses came to Broad Street, and dozens of new apartments are close to being finished, with more on the way.
Currently, we have about 450 housing units under construction.
All new tonight on News 12 at 6 o'clock, our Craig Allison breaks down the pricing for these apartments and what this means for downtown Augusta moving forward. Taking aim at protecting kids on social media, lawmakers are crafting bills that could keep your kids off TikTok and other social media apps while in school. But as our State House reporter Abby Kasoris reports, whether or not these bills would actually work is up for debate.
2 bills on the Senate floor today tackling social media concerns. One, cyberbullying. The other, privacy concerns. State Senator Jason Anavatarte says the name of his bill, Protecting Georgia's Children on Social Media, says it all.
I mean, back when I was in school, we had beepers. Those things don't really exist anymore.
His bill updates decades-old rules, keeping kids from using social media apps in schools and requiring parents sign off on their kids having social media accounts.
With all the security concerns we're seeing through TikTok and other apps, and then just the content that we're seeing that kids are being exposed to in all sorts of different settings, right now is a really, opportune time to get this done.
Almost the whole Senate voting to pass. If the House and Governor sign off, next school year, students will learn about bullying and online threats in elementary and middle school.
Chair hears none of the previous question is ordered.
The bill is a priority bill of Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. He also supports a second bill that would allow social media users to opt in to keep your information protected.
It's like the bare minimum of protections for people when it comes to big data.
The American Civil Liberties Union is against the bill, saying it doesn't do enough to protect consumers.
Thinking about the kids, the children who get on these platforms every day, which can serve a great purpose of informing and entertaining your children, but it can also be very dangerous. And if we do not have the right protections in place, it's going to be a problem.
Lawmakers are racing to pass bills before crossover day on Thursday. Bills must receive a vote in the House or Senate to receive consideration in the other body. In Atlanta, I'm Abby Kasoris.
Thanks, Abby. A new brunch spot just arrived in Augusta. Another Broken Egg is now serving customers. It's located on Alexander Drive in the same plaza as Kroger. It's known for its Southern-inspired breakfast and brunch menu with innovative twists and signature cocktails. They are closed for the day, but they will reopen for business bright and early tomorrow morning at 7 until 2 p.m. Just a reminder, the last day for you to donate donate books for the Shea Drive is this Thursday. A mother and father are remembering their daughter, and her motto, small acts of kindness will change the world. That's exactly what Shaylin Foster's family is doing. The goal is to raise 4,000 new or gently used books for the hub. You can head to our website, wrdw.com, for a list of the drop-off locations. For the first time, the CSRA will have their own chance to partake in a Par 3 tournament. The Par 3 Tour launched today at its first event of the season at the River Golf Club in North Augusta. The tour will host more than 10 local events throughout the year. They'll even make stops at the Chalk Mine and Westlake Country Club. Players will even have a shot at winning a gift card of up to $1,000. So a good opportunity there to win some money, play some good courses as well. Georgia is paving the way for electric vehicles, but former President Donald Trump wants to pump the brakes. How Georgia Governor Brian Kemp is responding. That's coming up next. Riley?
Well, temperatures today are well above average across the central and eastern U.S., and it's going to stick around the next few days for us. I'll look at that full forecast next.
Time. When you have a house plant like this, you don't know if it's dying, if it needs more water, less water. Well, I'm Jamie Tucker. Coming up, I found a smartphone app that will practically give you a green thumb.
First Alert Radar, powered by Jim Hudson Automotive Group.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, what are you waiting for?
Call George Sink Injury Lawyers at all nines now.
The sooner you call, the sooner they can help.
George Sink Injury Lawyers has the experience to help you get your money faster. If you've been hurt in a car wreck, call all nines.
I'm Arthur.
Well, do you have a houseplant that needs some TLC? Well, our consumer tech reporter, Jamie Tucker, has a smartphone app that can practically give you a green thumb.
What the Tech, sponsored by Augusta Preparatory Day School.
Unless you're really good at it, you probably have a houseplant that looks like this. One day it looks fine, the next day you don't know if it's going to live. Well, I found a smartphone app. It's called Planta that will not only help you care for the plant you have, but tell you if the plant in the backyard is actually a weed.
Like this green plant that's taken over my garden bed. Planta uses my smartphone camera to snap a photo and then it runs it through a database. Using AI, it recognizes this as periwinkle and says this plant covering the ground is chickweed, which I should get rid of. Of course, Google Lens can do this to some extent, but Planta puts you in touch with millions of other users who are eager to help me with recommendations. What's even more useful is how Planta helps with houseplants. I added this peace lily to my list of plants, and Planta offers lots of suggestions on how to care for it. But what are these brown leaves all about, and how do I remedy it? Well, Planta uses a photo and asks me questions like a doctor would ask a human patient. Then it shows me in detail what's wrong. It's getting too much water. I thought I wasn't watering it enough. It'll even send notifications for when it is time to water, so I won't have to worry about timing it just right. Planta is free with a few features, but if you want to use the camera and AI, it requires a subscription that's $10 a month or $35 for a year. There are Planta apps for iPhone and Android devices. I'm Jamie Tucker, and Planta is the app of the day.
A statue to honor a champion. You're looking at the clay cast for the future statue honoring USC women's basketball coach Dawn Staley. The final statue will be made of bronze and put on display in Columbia. This permanent dedication is to honor Staley for being an ambassador to the sport and advocating the level the playing field for girls and women in the sport. Coach Staley and her team have been involved with the statue's design as well. No word yet on when the statue will be finished. An update is expected in the coming months. Well, with the high school basketball playoffs continuing